Greetings and salutations. Welcome to a midweek madness video. I'm going to show you my new Linux Mint Debian Edition 7 setup on my main machine, the one that I use to record videos and do all kinds of other stuff. And I'll walk you through the software that I have installed here and some of the customizations. If you like videos like this, be sure and give this one a big thumbs up. It helps YouTube to understand that people do want to see long-form content, and they will actually show this video to potential new viewers, which is helpful to my channel. It gets the words out about Linux, and it's just generally cool. Also, if you have not done so already, be sure and subscribe to the channel because we have a lot more great videos about Linux coming up, and maybe some videos about other things like audio equipment and records and whatever I'm into, but mostly Linux going forward. Coming up Saturday morning at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., I should be publishing a new video about the Linux file system. I haven't done one like this in a very long time. We're going to go through all of the directories you'll find on a typical Linux system. We'll talk about what is stored in there. I have always said that the first step to becoming a computer nerd is to learn the file system on your computer. Know where everything is and know exactly the difference between a file and a directory and where things go. A lot of people that you try and work with have no idea what the computer is doing or where they're saving it or anything. So we're going to take you through that. And also in that video, I plan on talking about how Linux handles file systems on things like USB sticks and DVDs and SD cards and all kinds of stuff, and how that gets mounted to the system. So that's coming up Saturday at 7 a.m. Right now, let's get into taking a look at my Linux Mint Debian Edition desktop here. This is GG, and it officially came out on the 14th, which would have been last week. I am recording this on the 21st of October 2025. I actually installed this over the weekend. I've had it up and running for about 3 days, and I have been able to get all the software that I needed installed and up and running. All of it from the repos, by the way. I have had to import no deb file from somewhere else or any flat packs or anything like that. Everything that I need to do what I need to do is available in the Debian 13 Trixie repositories. So, awesome. Thank you, Debian. In past videos where I have set up this system, I've done a couple now setting up Linux Mint Debian Edition while it was in beta, so you might want to check those out. I didn't install a whole lot of stuff, so I didn't really know what was in the repos, and now I've taken a good deep look, and yes, everything is good to go, and you can also install flat packs on Linux Mint. Of course, Linux Mint does not support snaps out of the box. Neither the Linux Mint based on Ubuntu or Linux Mint Debian Edition. If you want to use snaps, you're going to have to enable them manually. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. I have to be honest with you. I am very happy to be back on Linux Mint. Those of you who have been watching these videos will remember that I posted a video called All Ubuntu All the Time for Now, where I had returned to Ubuntu for a month or two just to see what was going on after using Linux Mint Debian Edition 6 for a long time. And I gotta tell you, coming back to Linux Mint is like going home, man. So when I did my install, what I did was booted the machine off of Linux Mint Debian Edition, and then I opened up the Nemo file manager in the live environment. Nemo, by the way, is one of my favorite parts of Linux Mint. Nemo is the best file manager in the entire Linux world. Fight me. I love Nemo. Nemo does everything I need it to do, and in a very classy way. So what I did was I opened up the file system after mounting the home partition. I have a separate home partition on my hard drive, and this is why I have that. And I went in here and I changed the name of my home directory in the /home directory. And I changed it to Joe Backup. And then I went ahead and installed the system, and when I was configuring the partitions, I did not actually format the home partition. I told the system to mount home there, but I didn't format it. And what the system did was create a new home directory, just simply called Joe, and I got the standard empty home directory. And then I was able to use the split pane feature in Nemo once I had everything installed to simply drag stuff back and forth. And it is probably the quickest way to get your system back up and running, because you're not actually writing these files, you're not copying them, you're just changing the location. And when you do that, it just makes a little tiny modification in the table of contents on the hard drive. It's not rewriting the file. So it is very slick to do that. And the reason why I didn't just leave my regular home directory in there and then reinstall over top of it was because if you do that and you're changing desktops, on Ubuntu I was running GNOME, and here I'm running Cinnamon, there's going to be conflicts. And when you boot it up, it's going to be weird. So I wanted to start fresh so I could configure everything fresh and get it looking the way I wanted to. So it worked out really well. By the way, to get into the split pane mode in the Nemo file manager, it is F3. This does not work in other file managers. You can open up other tabs if you want to, which is kind of stupid. I don't like tabs. I would rather have two windows that I could drag things back and forth and see exactly what I'm doing if I'm working in a graphic environment. Opening up another tab and switching back and forth is awkward to me. Whatever works for you, though. So F3 activates that feature, and if you want to turn it off, it's F3. So like over here, if I wanted to go and grab a file out of videos, for instance, that I wanted to do something with here, then that's how you do it. Click over here, and then we can change directories here as well. You get the idea. We can move all around the system that way. Love me some Nemo. So the actual install was a little bumpy the first time I did it. It wouldn't boot for some reason. And then I actually installed it again, just the file system again, and I think that time around I made a mistake and didn't tell it where to mount the home directory, so it didn't recognize that it was there at all. So I ended up doing another reinstall, just of the operating system itself, which is very quick. It only takes a few minutes. But I don't blame anything about the installer for that. That was me. That was just me trying to be in a hurry and not paying attention. I was actually quite excited about it, so I really wanted to get to playing with the system, and that'll catch even an expert if you're not careful and you take it slow. But once I got it all up and running, it has run beautifully since then. I have had no issues. So this is HTOP running on my system here, and you can see that we have a little bit of processor activity. That is because we are capturing high definition video while this video is being captured from this screen while we're looking at it. It all runs on the same machine. I do not like Open Broadcaster OBS. It's too complicated for me. I use a much simpler little piece of software called Simple Screen Recorder. And so we can start looking at the software that I installed if you'd like. So Simple Screen Recorder is running here. This kind of brings me to one small complaint about Linux Mint. Debian Edition 7 is the way it handles Qt applications. I think that they could have made it a little snazzier, maybe followed the GTK theme a little closer. I think the text is actually a little bit smaller over here. I'm not 100% sure of that. I would rather have this bigger than it is, but I only use like 2 Qt applications, and in both cases it's okay. It's not that big a deal. Unfortunately, Linux Mint does not ship with any way to edit Qt outside of GTK that I can find. If it's here, I don't know about it, and I guess you could install something like that if you really wanted to tweak it, but the truth of the matter is, like I said, I only run a couple of applications. So this is Simple Screen Recorder. It's written by a fellow named Martin Barrett, and I have used this for many, many years to create these videos, and I prefer it. It works best with X11. doesn't work with Wayland now, as far as I know. It may be ported in the future, or it may already have been to Wayland, which kind of sucks because on Ubuntu 24.04 I can't use it on my laptops because I'm using Wayland. I actually prefer the Wayland Display Manager with Intel integrated graphics if I can use it, so that's the way those machines are set up. But with the good old X11 Display Manager, this thing works great. This is actually just a front end for FFmpeg with some nice features. And I really love this software, and I can't really show you too much about it because we're recording with it right now and I don't want to mess it up, but there it is. So coming back over here to our main desktop, let's talk about the system. We're going to open up System Info, and we'll talk about the computer that this is running on. This is kind of a homebrew machine. I didn't build it myself. I bought it from a fella in upstate New York who has a computer shop, and he was selling rebuilt computers, and I was just blown away by the specs on this machine. He wanted $300 for it, shipped. And it's an old Green PC case. Green PC was a company that made computers that came pre-installed with Ubuntu. They started out maybe about 10 years ago. And he got a hold of one of those cases, and he gutted it, and he put an ECM motherboard in it with 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has an M2 drive on it, and I have a 1 terabyte Samsung Evo 970 drive in it, which is actually the drive that I would have bought at the time. This machine is about 2 or 3 years old at this point. It is not the biggest double clutching Ryzen processor. It's a 5400G series. That means it has integrated graphics. I like it. It works really well. The graphics have been nothing but stellar for what I do. I don't game on my machine, but I do watch high-definition video, and it keeps up with that with no issue. And so I like that. The machine came with a Seasonic power supply in it, which was nice. Like I said, this was all the stuff that I would have bought. It had a very nice Blu-ray writer in it. And at the time I bought the machine, I was thinking about getting into that format. And unfortunately, somewhere along the way, that Blu-ray writer just killed itself. It died, and it wouldn't read anything. It wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't write anything. So that had to come out of the machine. I put a really old DVD writer in here, and that serves my needs nicely because mainly I'm working with CDs. Occasionally I work with a DVD. And yes, I do work with optical media a lot because I have a very large CD collection, and one of my hobbies is maintaining a large digital library. So I'm constantly switching things out and moving things around, and we'll look at the software that I use to do that as we roll along in the video. Linux Mint Debian Edition 7 comes with X11 up and running by default. I think there is Wayland in the background that you could activate, but I'm not fooling with it. I'm fine with X, especially since I'm using Simple Screen Recorder, and that's what we're using to capture this. So that's the system we're working on. And this system is called Big Boy. But those of you who have been around the channel for a long time will know that it's actually Big Boy the Third. I tend to recycle host names. Very happy with this system. It's run very, very well. I'm not a huge fan of the ECM motherboard itself. The actual setup, the BIOS, is leaves something to be desired, but I get it. I got it doing what I want it to do, so I'm not going to complain for that kind of money. So Linux Mint comes with a very nice complement of software installed already. You'll get the entire LibreOffice suite. That's up and running and ready to go. And for sound, I'm not exactly sure what we're using. I think it's celluloid to play back stuff. Celluloid's a little weird, but it does the job. I have a lot of media stuff in here. We'll roll through that in just a second. So if you look at sound and video, that's not as much as I thought, but we'll take a look at these in a little bit. Some of the minty goodness that you get is like Warpinator. We'll take a look at that real quick. That is a way to transfer files back and forth between machines. No other computers found. It's because I don't have anything else running that. That requires setup that I don't quite understand. As I mentioned in previous videos, I use SSH to exchange files back and forth between machines, and it works great. So you do not get, like if you're used to Linux Mint Ubuntu edition, you probably know that there's a kernel tool in here. Well, you don't get it with Debian. They don't have that. And so what I do is I install Synaptic, which, if I spell it right, will show up and we can take a look at it. That's my dog. Carly the dog has made her entrance. So if you hear strange dog noises in the background, that's what it is. It's not quite dinner time yet, Carly. About an hour, it'll be her dinner time, but I think she's hungry early this evening. Anyway, Synaptic has been around for a very long time. It's associated with Debian and early Ubuntu, and this is how you would manage all of the installed software packages in the day. And it's easy to search things here and hunt them down graphically. So I very much like using Synaptic, and I can just go in here like, we'll go to search, and we'll go to Linux image, or type in Linux image rather, and we'll do a search for that. And now all of this comes up. Let me make this bigger. All of this comes up, and then I can look and see what's installed. And you can see we have a bunch of stuff here. I think we've got 2 kernels in here right now. Well, what I can do then is go back through the kernels as kernels are added and remove them manually here. And all you do is just highlight a file that you want to get rid of, and then you choose mark for complete removal. Well, this is marked for installation. I want to see, there we go. So mark for complete removal, and that will purge that out of there. Very wonderful program. Does a lot of great things if you want to play around with Debian. It's very old, but it's nice. Of course, Linux Mint does have their software center available, so we can take a look at that. And I do use this too to take a look around. This is a great way to browse for software. By the way, I found all the software I needed for this machine in the repos for Debian 13. Everything. I didn't have to import any files from anywhere, no deb files. I didn't have to install Flatpaks, just all in the regular repos. So good on you, Debian, for keeping up with packages that I need, at least. You may be missing something, but so this is a one of the great things about the Linux Mint installer here is the fact that it basically gives you access to every package in the system, even stuff that's not graphical you can install from here. So very useful tool indeed. Works quite well. Also, I installed GDebi. That was not installed by default. It has been in the past on Linux Mint, but they're not installing that, and this is what you use to graphically work with deb packages. Now, whether their installer now does that or they expect you to do it from a terminal, I don't know. You don't get a driver manager here. The installer finds the drivers and installs them. And if you have a system that needs third-party drivers, you must make sure that you have an internet connection at install so it can find them. Like if your Wi-Fi doesn't work, you need to have an Ethernet cable plugged in when you install it so it'll find the Wi-Fi driver or figure out some other way to get the driver in the system. With Ubuntu and Linux Mint based on Ubuntu, you have a driver manager that you can look at, and it'll graphically show you what drivers are installed. You don't get that here. So what software do I have installed? Well, I have htop installed. You can see that running. And yeah, we're using a little bit of memory right now because, first of all, the machine's been up and running for a couple days. So there's a lot of caching here, and I've been opening and closing a lot of applications. When it first boots up, it uses under a gig, so that's fine. Now, what did I install on the machine, or what am I using? Let's do it that way. So, of course, I did configure GNOME boxes. And GNOME boxes runs in a very interesting way. I want to jump over here to an empty desktop. I have 3 desktops running in Cinnamon. And we'll open up GNOME boxes and we'll take a look at that, running virtual machines. Because it does something weird. It's actually more stable than it was on Ubuntu 24.04. It's not quite as glitchy, but there is a couple of weird little things. So if we open up Ubuntu here, and I have accelerated video enabled, you'll see that we're seeing the background through boxes, their window, as it boots up. And then we get to the login. Let me log in here. And I'm going to go ahead and just log out of this because I want you to see what happens. Power off. So that's what it does. It's a little bit strange. And watch when I open up Linux Mint. We're going to get the same sort of thing here as this boots. These are the same virtual machines that we've been using in past videos. It's just that they were in my home directory, and all I had to do was update libvirt and the GNOME boxes directories in .local and .config, and it brought it all over. So see, you can see through the login window there on Linux Mint, which is strange. And if I opened up, there we go, Linux Mint Debian Edition is running on Linux Mint Debian Edition. Now watch what happens when I go to get out of here. You can see through to the wallpaper behind. So kind of a little glitchy bug, but it lets me know that the accelerated graphics is working okay. I can deal with that because it's very smooth. Much smoother than on Ubuntu, the way the virtual machines are running. So I'm happy with that. So what software do I need here? I have installed, of course, one of the things that I do is I collect CDs. I have a very large CD collection and a very large record collection. Those of you who are new to the channel will not know that. So I am constantly fooling around with digital music. I am constantly upgrading things. I get a new record, I say, ooh, and I make a copy of it. I put it into a digital file, and I put it in my system, that sort of thing. So I use Rhythmbox to play a curated library of songs, and usually have it in shuffle mode. And so my entire music directory in here is, it says that it's 7,000, what is this? 7,066 or 68, 7,066 songs currently. And then I have a bunch of playlists, and I can go and just isolate country. There's some artists in here that I like if I want to hear something from, all the Steely Dan is in here. All I got to do is do that. And so I use Rhythmbox quite a lot. And this is the first bug that I encountered with LMDE 7. This is probably a Debian bug. I don't know what was going on, but when I first turned this on, and I had imported all my playlists, my settings, and I was resetting the view and all that stuff, and I really don't use much in this. I don't store album art or any of that garbage. It's very simple. There is a lot of audio on this computer, and I mean $40,000-$50,000 no, 40,000-50,000 files. So potentially at some point it might have to deal with that. Right now, like I said, I'm using this little curated library, and it just didn't want to run. It was like just bogging down. So I started looking around, and I came in here and went to Preferences, and I went to Plugins. And I ended up turning everything off that I didn't need, because I am not going to use this to rip CDs or anything like that. The only thing that I did keep open was the audio CD recorder plugin, which works with Bracero if I want to generate a playlist to record to a CD, I can do it directly here. Once I turned all that off, everything was fine. There was some plugin running in the background that was bogging the entire system down. It just wasn't working, so I got rid of it. You don't need that garbage anyway. I mean, you can read what it is and figure out whether you want it. Let's put it that way. So my advice is to go in here and set this up simply, and then it works nice for a player. Do I say it's the greatest player in the world? No, but I'm very used to it, and I've learned how to maneuver it, and I've learned how to back up the settings, so if this machine dies, I have backups of the playlists and everything. I can restore everything and get it back to normal. So we have the X apps, which are part of Linux Mint. These are applications that Linux Mint ships. My favorite of the bunch is Xed, which is their own text editor. And the reason I like it is because it comes pretty much configured the way I want it. It also has the Cobalt theme in it, which I really like. We'll load some code up in here a little bit later in the video, and you'll see what that looks like. You can resize the text. You can turn on spell checking. It's just a very nice editor. Of course, I can set up margins. I can have it count lines. The only thing I do not like about this particular editor, and I haven't figured out how to do this, is I don't want the tab line up there unless I have more than one tab open. And the reason why is because I make videos and I would like to full screen this, and I would like it so we didn't have to look at this. But I can't figure out how to make that go away. I looked through the settings. If you know how to do it, let me know, because I looked through the settings and I couldn't find it. Other than that, for writing code and processing text, I love this text editor. It's one of my favorites. Xed. Close without saving, yes. All right, so I also have LibreOffice Writer and LibreOffice Impress in here. And then I installed Audacity, and I was able to get all of my presets loaded that I have come up with through the years. So that's nice. They're all imported. They're here. And this is a slightly newer version than I was used to on Ubuntu 24.04. They've kind of dumped some of the finite control on producing MP3 files, but it's okay. I can make it work. Audacity is very nice. And it does what I need it to do. Like I said, I record a lot of things from records, and I process audio to put in my digital library. And I did a video about that probably, I don't know, a year or two ago, if you want to go check it out. Not many people did. This is not something that people are terribly interested in. So I'll try and move through this quickly. The next one that I want to show you is a wonderful application that I have just started using. It's been around for a while, called Puddle Tag. In the original video I posted about setting this up, you will remember that I said, oops, I need to find a tag editor, because my old tag editor, which I had in a deb package that I had been using for years and years, it finally stopped working. So I had to find something new. Puddle Tag is nice. Watch this. I can go in here and I will go to Joe, and I'll go to Music right there, and then I'm going to have it open that entire library and show all the tag information. And so it's scanning all that. Boom, loaded all the tags. And then I can come in here and I can remove tags. I can update tags from file names, do it manually, whatever you want to do. Now, I usually just worry about title and artist. I don't worry about anything else. I do this in mass. I will create a bunch of files, and I'll name them what I want it to be, and then I'll create a tag from the file name. So this lets me do this. Very powerful tool indeed. More audio stuff. Oh, God, here we go. Jeez. Don't care about this. Why does he keep showing this? I can hear you out there, but this is what I do with my computer, man. So Bracero you can use to make all kinds of CD projects, copy CDs, and you can write DVDs here if something like that is what you're into. I was going to get into Blu-rays, like I said, and then I backed away from the format, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I don't know, Blu-ray is in a weird place right now. The people who are getting sick of streaming are starting to buy physical media again, which is great, but then go try and find yourself a good Blu-ray player at this point. They're hard to find, man. So I'm not really sure what the deal is with that, but I have thousands of CDs, and I do create audio CDs once in a great while, and it's something I do for friends, and I do it for myself too. So to play back on my big system, on my CD players, and of course I have the digital stuff in there as well. But still, it's like I said, it's a hobby, right? Right. So that's Bracero. You use that to record CDs, and we'll take a look at what I use to rip them, because this program has proven to be very useful. This is Sound Juicer, which, as you could probably see, is written in Qt. And I'm going to put a CD in here, and I'll show you how it works. So I have Phil Collins' first album. This is not an original first pressing from 1983, but it is I think this would be an early 90s pressing before they started remastering everything. Remaster is a dirty word. That means we're going to remove all the detail, compress it, make it very loud, and bump up the bass. And we'll try and take out all of the hiss and the pops and clicks that give the song character, so that it is just as cold and generic while being too bassy all at the same time. And this is taking a little while to actually figure out that there's a disc in there, probably because I am recording a video. Ordinarily, this works much quicker than this. You might have heard me put the disc in the machine, and for some reason or another, it is taking a long time to figure out that said disc is there. But we will wait patiently. Now we can choose exactly which disc we have. You just try and figure out the one that is the closest to your version in the Music Brains library here. So I'm just going to choose this one, because why not? And now you see it automatically fills in all of this information. If it is a compilation, it will figure that out, and it'll put the track artists in here. So when you make FLAC files or whatever you're going to make with this thing, you have all the information. Of course, you can type this in manually. You can change this. You can do whatever you want to do. I find that Music Brains finds about 90% of the discs I put in it, and some it doesn't. It is not nearly as complete as like the old CD database, the Open CD database, which is now defunct. It's offline, which is sad. It's been up and down for years, but I think it finally went away. So this uses Music Brains. It is simple. It works very easily. The downside to this particular program is the fact that I didn't mean to close that. I was going to try and open preferences, but that's okay. Sound Juicer. Just type in, look for juice. Come on, man. There we go. I'll get it right sooner or later. There we go. It's going to have to reload that again. Lovely. The only downside to this is the fact that, there we go, now preferences is what we want, is that when you choose what you want to create file-wise, it doesn't give you any option to change any options with your encoder. So if I would choose MP3, well, let's go ahead and choose that again. If I would choose MP3 from this list, then it has its own presets, which are kind of crappy, and you can't change it. So what I rip to here is FLAC. And I'm just really used to using this piece of software. I kind of know how it works, and it does a wonderful job of extracting audio even from not perfect CDs and making up for errors. I use this software to move thousands of songs over to files for the WZBB music library when I was working for the station. So that was part of my job, was to revamp the library, and I use this software to do it. One more piece of CD-related software, and then I will move on from that topic, because this one is actually really cool. Because I collect early CDs, one of the things that I need to know about them is whether they are actually using pre-emphasis, which is it's a part of the CD standard where you can record a CD and boost the high frequencies, and then on playback, the player will turn them back down so it sounds normal. And unfortunately, when you rip from a CD that has pre-emphasis, CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs or whatever you're using, computer-style stuff, doesn't catch that. And it puts it in the file with the pre-emphasis on. So I need to actually de-emphasize the audio manually in Audacity. I have a preset that does that. And I need to know if the CD has pre-emphasis. Now, I used to have a CD player that had a preamp light that came on, but I destroyed it trying to make it work better. I regret that. So I needed to find some way to check this out, since I like to collect these early CDs. They used pre-emphasis early on. So the program is CD-Paranoia. And I no space, dude. CD-Paranoia. And the option that we want is Q, capital Q. So capital Q. We'll get it. There we go. You can do it. And now that same CD is in there. And so you'll see here that it shows me the table of contents for the disk. This is how your CD player knows what's on the disk. CDs are not files. They do not have files on them. It is a data stream from beginning to end. The table of contents is written in the lead-in part of that stream. There's actually the lead-in, the stream, and the lead-out. And the table of contents is written in there 3 times. And the player goes and reads that, and that's how it tells you how many tracks you have. And it also can go find CD text information if it's a later disc and it has that on there, and display it to you. It's all in that lead-in. But the actual data itself is nothing more than a stream. Now, interestingly enough, if we open up a file manager and we look at this CD, it shows us WAV files, right? And you've probably seen this before, and you're probably thinking, well, CDs have WAV files on them. No, they don't. The system is interpreting that table of contents, and it's taking each one of these tracks that you see here, and it is making it, representing it as a WAV file. And that way you can do some pretty cool tricks. Like I can right-click on this and I can tell it to open with Audacity. So instead of having to use like Sound Juicer, if I just need to grab some audio off a CD, I can right-click on it and it will open it up directly in Audacity. And also the system will copy into a WAV file from a CD without opening any software at all. I'll show you that in just a second here too. It's taking a little while to open this in Audacity, but there you get the idea. So let me go ahead and close that because we don't need it. We're going to use that split feature in Nemo. Love Nemo. I'm going to go over here and go to work. So there we go, right there. And I just grab this and pull it over. And watch, it's going to dump this in here. Of course, there's the video that we're recording right now, too. So this might actually go a little quicker if I wasn't processing high-res video, but it does a pretty good job just doing a direct rip from the CD. Now, the Sound Juicer itself it's a little bit more sensitive to errors. So you get fewer errors that way, but most of the time, for a quick rip, this works fine. My CDs are generally in very good shape. If they don't play properly, if they throw a lot of errors, I get rid of them anyway. I don't keep junk. So go ahead and eject the disc. We're done playing with CDs now. It's more than I ever wanted to know. So yeah, doing a lot of audio work is important to me. And I've talked about that in past videos. And I also take audio from records, 45s and LPs, and I will put them in digital files. If I get a cool 45, then I'll put it in there like that. And I have a lovely Behringer Euphoria DAC that I'm using. It's an interface. It's the last video I made before I quit my job and started doing Linux videos again. So if you want to go check that out, that's there. Now, one more thing to talk about. I did run into a couple of issues with this. As you have seen, I'm not a big fan of the way it renders Qt applications. It seems to be very plain Jane, whereas the GTK applications look great. And there's really no way to get those themes to talk to each other. And Linux Mint has not included an application to theme Qt at all, so you get what they do, and that's it. It looked a little better in Ubuntu between the two applications, to tell you the truth, but that's okay. The other thing that I came across is that we are running kernel 6.12 on this machine. And that is the Debian kernel, which is fine. And why isn't that getting bigger? Because you didn't do this. There we go. So we're running kernel 6.12. And the problem that I had with 6.12 is that with my sound card on my machine, the built-in sound card on the ECM motherboard, I was getting that pop-click problem. Several years ago, they decided, and this was the folks who maintained the Linux kernel, so Linus Torvalds and his gang, that they would put a feature in where it would try and save power by shutting down the audio section of your laptop. And when you would click a sound, it would turn it on real quick. And the problem is that on a lot of chips, that creates a pop. So every time the system plays an effect, like you click on something and it wants to play a little, ding dong or something like that, you get a pop before that. And the same thing when you're starting to play music or videos. I can't stand that. Now, the way to get rid of it is to run this command. So I'm going to go into Documents, and we're going to take a look at scripts. And I'm going to go down here, and this is a bunch of install scripts that have this in here. I would like to display it, please. And it puts it in my favorite little file editor there. Isn't that nice? We can make this nice and big so everybody can see it. And this, by the way, doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. This was an old bug. This showed up in 1804 for Ubuntu. So what you do is you just set the sound card to stay on all the time. And you want to add this text as a line at the bottom of the file to this file. Now I have this set up to do it in one shot. And I would happily share all of this line of code with you and put it in the description. But unfortunately, you can't have angled brackets in the descriptions for your videos. And so you can't do that. What I will do is I will put this line of text in here. And I will put the file name. And you can put that in there if this is a problem that you're having with your system. It seems to affect mainly desktop cards more than it does the laptops that I've put it in, but either way, I just it's just adding a line to the end of a file, so it's no big deal. I'll get rid of that. So that was one little issue. No big deal. You do that once and you never have to do it again. And it has gotten to me to be sort of a, just standard way of doing things. So that's kind of a look around my desktop here and the software that I use. And you're probably saying, well, where is your video editing software? You're doing YouTube videos. I don't edit these videos. I don't do it. I don't like video editing. It gives me a headache. I suck at it. I'm very good at audio editing. I can mix albums if you want me to. I've done that in the past. I can mix all kinds of multi-track and everything, but I can't do video. Video is painful for me. And so I just kind of record these live, and if I need to pause, I pause and come back, and that's it. That's what these videos are. Very low production quality here on the channel, boys and girls. And of course, this is Simple Screen Recorder, and I was showing you that application earlier. This is what I use to record the videos, and I do love it. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video to be useful, and I didn't mean to do that. Let me go ahead and just quit that with the Q. Now do that. And there's more that I could show you, but I think this is enough. You get the idea. This is a very solid, basic system. If you have a little bit of Linux knowledge, it's nice. It doesn't get in your way. If you're not afraid to open up a terminal and do some things, this is the place for you. As a starter system for somebody who is just starting out, I wouldn't recommend this. I would probably recommend Linux Mint based on Ubuntu, because there are more pointy clicky things in there, like the kernel manager and the drivers and everything. So that would be the only reason that I would not recommend this to a new user. But once you get familiar with how the system works, this is a great place to be. So thank you for watching. Your comments, suggestions, always welcome. And I will talk to you again coming up this Saturday. Until then, be cool. See ya.